What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters from No That to Metal, and this is
Trog.
So, alright, so we're back with our, we're going to call this our top 10, but it's basically his top 9, my top 9, and we actually agreed on a 1.
We only agreed on one for this, so instead of belaboring it, we just kind of said to hell with it.
Yeah.
We'll just do it the way we did the last one.
So,
Our tastes just totally were going like that at this point, just like the same way I've been kind of injecting albums that you wouldn't normally see.
and it's the thing is, it's not even, these lists that we've been doing aren't even like, it's just our favorites, so it doesn't really.
Yeah, it's not like this isn't. Don't base your life on this. You want to start?
Sure.
All right.
Alright.
And these are pretty much in order of preference for us.
For us, yeah.
Disney
I
and
made a top 10, he made a top 10, and the one that we had in common ended up becoming our 1, and we agreed it could be easily number 1 for us. So.
Yep.
Baron Cross, Atomic Arena, second album for these guys. They were actually pretty well known at the time. They were on Enigma Records, touring around the country. Rapture actually toured with them on this album, all over the country. And Messiah Prophet was the other band on the tour.
Mm-hmm.
Paul's told me some really funny stories about the tour, but I won't get into that. Interesting guy, vocalist Mike Lee. I've met him a few times.
Michael Drive?
Michael Drive. I'm sorry, Michael Drive.
Is that's his?
That's his legal name now. Yeah.
That's his legal name.
Yeah, he changed it to Michael Drive. Or anyhow, I asked him to sign my first album. And I said, "Please sign it, Michael Lee," and he signed it, Michael Lee Drive.
Okay.
Yeah, that's whatever. He signed it. That doesn't matter. I shouldn't tell
As my
someone.
friend Beth would say, bless his heart.
Yeah, bless his heart. I mean, I shouldn't ask. He shouldn't. Well, at least he signed it. He could have been a,
Douche.
right. But what you got here is a band who found their sound. The first album was metal,
Kinda
maidenish, kind of primitive, but I liked it. They looked kind of like a blue version of Striper at the time.
That's right.
Yellow and black, they were blue and white.
That's right.
They kind of dropped that look.
Now that was Rock the King. Rock for the King?
Rock for the King.
Did they have an EP prior?
Yeah, they did have an EP, a 4-song EP. It was
Self-titled?
just Self-titled.
Okay, I thought so.
And
So this is their third release.
yeah.
Okay.
The EP was independently released. Then it was picked up. They were picked up by a Christian label. I think it was Star Song. Anyhow, it doesn't matter.
Catcher's label.
Then they were put onto Enigma Records. They signed with Enigma Records.
I think once Striper did, they
They signed several other bands. So, great production, great sound, great forward metal. John and Dino Elefante produced it.
Oh, okay.
They kind of had that. They have their sound. You know what I mean? They have that sound with the background vocals and
Pachyderm production.
Pachyderm, huge drum sound, huge bottom end sound. Always have the huge hooks. That's what they were really good at, and every song on here is great. There's not a song here I don't love. Imaginary Music, Killers of the Unborn, which is a song about abortion, In the Eyes of Fire, Terrorist Child,
Cultic regimes. Regimes.
Closer to the Edge, Deadlock. I mean, every song on here has got a hook. King of Kings, the ballad on here was called Heaven or Nothing. Give Me Heaven or Nothing was kind of a power ballad kind of thing. And it's got the very 80s painted, cover, production cover. I don't know. Easily make my list because when this album came out, I was so into it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I listen to it as much anymore as I used to, but during this time, oh my gosh,
I have it, but I missed that whole first wave of this stuff.
Yeah.
I get into it so much later that I kind of missed the whole point of it, I think.
And this was like I bought it as a new album, so I was just like so into it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get enough of it. They actually heard him on Z-Rock. They
played him on Z-Rock. Oh wow.
I saw it on MTV. They had a video on MTV, so they were pretty well known at the time. Everybody kind of thought they were going to be the next big band, the next Striper or whatever. And never really happened for them. But
no, never really happened for anybody. I don't think. The next Striper?
POD. They're probably the next big band.
But the style's so different.
Oh yeah, totally.
Really, POD are that big?
Well, yeah, they were for a while. I don't know if they still are. They were playing all the big festivals.
I've been out of the loop for a long time.
Me too. Oh, POD is like 90s or early 2000s. So
I have the Satellite album and I like it. My wife liked it, and that's it. That's all I ever heard from him. I never really went looking. Just me. Okay. This album just kind of came out of nowhere. I remember. It was like, oh, Priest has another album out? Oh, I didn't know that. There wasn't really a whole lot of hype for it. It just kind of appeared one day. Ram It Down was supposed to be the second album in a double album that Turbo initially was supposed to be. Apparently, record company put the kibosh on that. So we got this one. Not a lot of people's favorites. Neither is Turbo. I will say I preferred this one to Turbo. I think it's got better songs on it. I'm not crazy about the production at all. It's a very, the guitar tone on here is very, very processed. I don't care for it.
Yep.
Rob, of course, is Rob. And it has one of my least favorite Priest creations ever, which is their coverage on It Be Dead. It's foul.
That never should have been. I mean,
I hate it.
It was fine for what it was supposed to be used for. It was for a movie soundtrack to be played in the background of the movie. And why they added it to this, I do not know. And then they released it as a single for them.
It was like when Megadeth did Norma Mr. Nice Guy. Pretty much, I just hated it. I didn't like the way it came out. It didn't translate well. Same with this. I just thought. I mean, Priest was known for picking some really cool covers to
right and making them their own.
Yes, and this one it just reeked. I hated it. And this was at the, this was at the prime when fashion and image was so paramount, and because of MTV and because of all the style and everything. But there's some good tunes on here otherwise. Besides that, I love the title track. I mean, it was prime Rob Halford, just wailing, just like he always did. Heavy Metal, Love Zone, Hard as Iron was a cool one. Blood Red Skies was kind of like Out in the Cold Part 2.
That's probably my favorite song on there.
It's a good tune. I'm a Rocker was kind of silly, but it was good. Love You to Death and Monsters of Rock. And Monsters of Rock kind of coincided with the big festival that was touring around. Priest wasn't on it, but they kind of, I don't know, that was their like tribute to the whole thing, I guess. I don't know. So I dug it. Not Priest's best for sure, but not their worst. I don't think either.
Well, you must like it. You put it in your top 10.
I did. I liked it. When it came out, I was listening to it a lot. It's definitely got some weak points, but I still think it outdid Turbo as far as it's a stronger collection of songs than Turbo was. But yeah, Ram It Down.
My number 9 is
Oh, cool.
At War. This is their second album. This was released as the pre-release EP.
Oh, okay.
And then that was released in '88, and then
Never saw that.
Then this is the original album, original cover for Retaliatory Strike. It's been released with other covers over the years.
Get that signed? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was actually trying to find an original pressing of this, and I couldn't find one anywhere. I had the repressing with the ugly brown, what do you call that stuff? The camouflage, like the military camouflage cover.
This is which album?
Retaliatory Strike.
Was their first?
Was their
third.
Second.
I have a 2-song EP and the one that came after that. What was that one called? Eat Lead was the 2-song EP.
That's the 2-song. That was it. Well, it was their demo.
Right. Okay. It was the first album. I could see it.
Me too. I hate that. I get in front of the camera and I'm like, duh.
But this is the one after that.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that one.
Because this is the one they're all new Renaissance records, but this was what came out before this one. After the first album, then this little EP came out, and then
these songs are on this.
These songs are on this.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyhow, At War sound. Again, often referred to as like a B-grade Slayer, but they're not really Slayer. They have, to me, they're a combination of Slayer and Motorhead. They kind of have that punkish vibe, that in-your-face edge that a lot of the other thrash bands didn't have.
I think you called them kind of like rapid fire riffing last time we talked about them.
Yes, exactly. It kind of has that rapid fire riffing, exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I love this band. I love this album, and maybe it's me. Maybe it's just because it's one of those bands I grew up with.
Well, I remember when they came out. I was seeing the ads for their demos in the metal magazines. I was interested in them, but I never ended up getting them until this last time when we were talking about them, and I went and grabbed some downloads.
Vocalist Paul Arnold. They're still together. They're still releasing music.
Still a 3-piece?
Still a 3-piece band. It's all the same guys, I believe. Dave Stone and Sean Hessel. Yeah.
Cool.
And I actually ended up buying this from the band, like I said, because they had copies for sale. Oh, you still have some of those left. I'm like, really? I want to buy one. And I said, will you sign it for me? He goes, well, I'll take the plastic off. I'm like, rip it off. I'm going to do the same thing when it gets home.
Plastic is overrated.
Yeah. So very, very cool. Great guys, great band. Love them. Thrash metal. I'm going to stop rambling.
Very cool.
We've already made this a 6-hour video.
Although these are records we can probably speak a lot more intelligently about. All right, this one, this is another one that DT Seizure, we listen to it all the time. Not one of their bigger ones, but we loved it and I'm super familiar with it. Anthrax, State of Euphoria. There's really not a song in here I don't like. Be All End All was a great opener with that cello, and then they came in with that riffing. Out of Sight, Out of Mind, Make Me Laugh, Antisocial, Who Cares Wins. Now It's Dark, which I think was another Stephen King song. I can't remember which story. Schism, Schism, Misery Loves Company, 13, and Finale. It's a good album. I like the cover. And they got the Knot guy on there.
I was a huge. Well, you told me.
Darn Adams.
Yeah, Randy actually said I was surprised it wasn't in your top 10.
Yeah.
Because I am a huge Anthrax fan, and I discovered them as they were a new band in my area, so that I did love them. I bought their first album, Fistful of Metal. I bought their first single. I thought Armed and Dangerous was brilliant. But this came out, I was a little disappointed. I bought it as a brand new release. The day it came out, I was in college, I had no money, but I made sure to get this stinking record. And it just seemed unfinished to me, like there was something missing.
Okay.
It didn't have the same vibe as the first 3 records to me. And I've since grown to love the record.
Like Rushed?
Yeah, like Rushed, or it was just something missing. The songwriting wasn't the same. I don't know. And then come to find out, the band later down the road claimed the same thing, that it was kind of rushed, and they wished they would have had more time to spend on it. And I can see how that happens.
Which is a bummer about deadlines. I mean,
yeah,
that's what sucks about music being a business.
Yep.
That's the part that sucks.
And that's what a lot of bands have happened to. You know, you get your first label. You've been together as a band 3, 4, 5 years. In the case of Twisted Sister, 10 years. You know what I mean? That kind of things. And by that time, you've got this big pool of stuff to choose from.
Yep.
And a lot of bands, even on the second album, they still have songs that they did before the first album. I mean, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll was written before, you know.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
I think I hate that model. I hate that model for music. I hate it. I think everyone, you know, the be all end all was to get a record contract so you could tour the world and be rock stars and blah blah blah. But as I've aged and as I've gotten further away from that, it's just like, man, that's not what it's about for me anymore.
Right.
It hasn't been about that for years. It's about the art, and that's a totally different world.
And I think it was also rushed a bit because they were going on a tour. I can't remember if it was the tour with Metallica.
Maybe.
I think it was the tour with Metallica, and it might have been the tour that.
Well, Queensryche was touring with Metallica for Justice for All.
No, it was.
Oh, Anthrax was touring with Ozzy.
Yeah.
I saw Anthrax.
But Anthrax was touring Europe with Metallica when Cliff Burton died.
Were they?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Well, this I guess I'm talking America then.
Yeah, because that's where Cliff Burton died over in Europe. Mm-hmm. Was it Sweden or Switzerland?
It was
when he went off the road?
This was 88.
Okay, so it wasn't that album.
No.
Okay.
They were definitely touring with Ozzy on this one, though.
So that was a stupid rabbit trail then.
They can't all be singers. Some of them are just going to be dumb. This doesn't surprise me at all. You love these guys.
I love Anvil. I just do. I mean,
I love them too. Just
a lot of people just kind of. I mean, they just kind of dropped off, man. They did. It seems like they had no fans at all of a sudden during this time. And I thought they were great. I mean, they had that song Mad Dog was
super consistent.
Yeah.
Another super consistent metal band.
And I get it. The lyrics were dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times do you want to hear some dude singing about, you know, playing with his dildo or jerking off or those kind of things?
The dildo slide solo is still, I love it. I think that's such a great thing that Lips did.
But I love this album so much. I tried to convince the guys in Ultimatum to record one of the songs on this album.
Which one?
Blood on the Ice.
Oh, that's right. That's the hockey song.
Yeah, the hockey song. It was. I mean, I love the subject matter and I love the song. So I really tried to get them to record, and I just couldn't. I couldn't swing it. Nobody else was into it but me. So it just didn't happen. But in any case,
there were a bunch of songs that you guys didn't do. I wish you had been able to.
Oh yeah.
Heavy Metal Machine.
Yes.
God.
Right? Yep.
That would have been killer.
We actually worked on a few that never made it too, like Michael Schenker group.
You were going to do Sabbath tune in the beginning, weren't you?
We were going to do a Sabbath tune, and our drummer...
Symptom of the Universe, Holding the Sky, one of those?
I don't remember which one it was now. I
think it was Hole in the Sky.
Could have been. I just remember
It would have been killer.
I just remember somebody in the band didn't want to do it. And, which it was really hard because there's so many different guys in the band doing a cover record, and everybody has their favorites and what they want to do. And so, I mean, I got my way on a lot of stuff on that. I can't complain.
No, it came out great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the stuff that you guys did it great.
Anyhow, again, rabbit trails. Straightforward metal. This is Anvil. This is what they sound like. They really haven't strayed from their sound. If you like the first 3-4 records, chances are you're gonna like this one. It's like that.
Is this the one?
It does
after, what was the previous one?
It's the one that had Mad Dog on it with a red cover, and it's
Strength of Steel.
Thank you, Strength of Steel.
Okay.
So this is what have been their 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth album.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the one that has Toe Jam on it.
I don't want to sing about Toe Jam.
Is
it instrumental?
It's an instrumental.
Okay.
Mostly instrumental. He does say Toe Jam.
I don't want any Toe Jam.
Safe Sex is on here. Where Does All the Money Go? Brain Burn. Senile King. Machine Gun and Fire and Night. If you don't know Anvil, chances are you don't know any of those songs because none of them were known. There was no hits from this record.
No. Hits is very
yeah.
subjective term. For
Well, there was
Anvil.
no songs that reached the level of Metal on Metal or
they never did.
No.
Metal on Metal was massive.
But even like Mad Dog, I saw the video on MTV for that one. You
Really?
Know, back in the day, or Headbangers Ball, whatever it was.
I never saw an Anvil video.
I remember seeing that one because Lips is he's like, it was almost like the Twisted Sister video where the guy will spin around and become Twisted Sister. Lips is of Lips, and he spins around and becomes a bulldog, and he's just chasing this chick around the house. And very, very Anvil. Yeah. Metal Blade Records, '88, great album.
All right. Yeah, you might be a little shocked this isn't higher on my list, I guess.
Didn't make my list at all.
True. And I was really into it. This is another one. When it came out, I remember DT Seizure were sitting around, popped it in, and just everyone wanted to hear the new Metallica. And it was very interesting stuff, for sure. It was a definite change. When 598 EP came out, I loved it.
Yeah,
loved
me
it
too.
Immediately,
Me
there was
too.
nothing not to like. This was a change of direction for them, and rightly so. I mean, they had a new member.
And they had something to prove.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say that they definitely, this didn't tank.
No, it did really well.
No, it did awesome. And it was a great tour.
Yeah.
Awesome tour. I remember Queensryche opened up. It was a great friggin' show. Very cool. I like the whole thing. I don't think there's a song in here I don't like. It's got some experimental stuff on it. They admitted to some like Rush influences and things like that. And
The songs were really long.
I think that
Compared to the first 3 albums.
oh yeah, definitely a little more progressive. If that's probably not the right word, but it's more mature.
I think they were trying to prove something. I think
were.
they were trying to prove that they were better musicians than people were giving them credit for. Especially the case for probably Lars Ulrich, who was at that point before the passing of Cliff Burton. They were considering kicking him out of the band. So
Yeah, that's right.
He was the weak link basically.
But I mean, they still came out swinging with Blackened. I mean, it was like, oh, Metallica album. It opens up with a kick-ass riff that just blows your face off, and that didn't disappoint. It really didn't. And the song won, and the video made them. If they weren't superstars already, it made them superstars. I mean, that really increased their presence tenfold. It was massive. It was an event. It's not one of my favorite Metallica albums, but I don't dislike it either. I still like it.
I like it too. There's just so much metal out now that I liked more.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to, because like I said, I was really into the thrash thing.
Yep.
Which is why you're seeing so much thrash in this list. And this wasn't.
No, it was growing from it.
Yep.
And there's a great tribute to Cliff on here, "To Live Is to Die," which includes a narrative of one of his poems, which is great. Whole thing. I can't say anything bad about it. People, the production is what the people mostly bitch about.
Yeah, because that's Jason Newkid's on there.
Yeah.
And he's basically almost unheard. It's all guitars and drums. There's the bass guitar. It's not just the mix. The bass guitar is very much buried.
And was it deliberate? I don't know. Maybe. Were they over Cliff being gone?
Nope.
No. And maybe subconsciously that was part of it. We don't really want you here, kid, but we need you here, but
Yeah.
you'll never be Cliff. So, yeah, I mean, Jason, man, kudos to him for stepping into that position.
The other
Yes.
Christian album. This is
Probably one of my
very,
all-time favorites.
very good album
Yep.
from Saint. Their third album, respectively. They Warriors of the Sun, and then
Time's Up.
Time's Up, and then
Time's End.
Time's End. Yeah.
Time's End.
And then Too Late for Living was their third, and they
Then they kind of
disappeared for
dropped
a while.
off the face of the earth until, what, 95?
Something like that.
When they put out Perfect Life, which was...
Terrible.
Who? Who was this?
Yeah, but they even. I mean, they look the part here.
Oh, yeah.
It's
And
just
it's-
and it's metal. It's not poppy whatsoever.
No, it is
but-
metal in the vein of Priest,
Yes.
and very...
I've heard people call them priest clones, and I really
wouldn't
don't
say that.
I really don't see that.
They just do that type of a sound really, really well, and
Yeah.
Josh Kramer has a
Has
very good voice.
Yeah, the guy can sing.
Yep.
Very unusual guy.
Yes, he is.
We've met him several times,
Yes.
and I consider him. I actually consider him a friend, but he's definitely.
He's an oddball,
Yeah.
but not in a bad way.
No.
Just it's almost like he comes in, it's Mr. Rogers, and and then he puts on his leather and studs, and he's Josh Kramer, singer for Saint.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and that's a perfect description. And Mr. Rogers is almost the way he looks.
Totally.
We played a festival with him. Or we
He
were
was
at a
at
festival.
He was at SoCal Metal Fest.
That's right. Neither one of us were actually playing that festival.
And that's the first time I ever saw Saint too. It was the first time.
That was bad. That was probably one of the worst. I've seen Saint several times, and they were always very good. That show.
There was a lot about that show.
There was
not just Saint.
It was the production issues, and
Yeah.
but they for some reason their second guitar player wasn't there,
That's right.
and so they had the second guitar player's tracks running through and they got off from it a couple times.
Yeah, it was not a great show, but the whole show in general,
The first half of the
there were a lot
shows,
of
the
weak-
first half of the shows were great. You couldn't even, unless you were actually paying attention, you wouldn't even know that there was a backing track for it.
Right.
But regardless, that has nothing to do with this. This is '88, and for 1980, this is a great, straightforward heavy metal album. This is not. I just love the whole thing.
And
front
really,
to
the
back.
only two guys that are still there, are Richard and Josh, right?
Yes. Too late for leaving.
Yeah, great album. And Star Pilot is just a great hook. First favorite song I had from Saint. And it's just like...
And the album ends on a somber moment with the war is over. It's kind of a more. I want to say ballad, but it's not a ballad. It's.
What do you want to call it? I don't know. It's...
You think ballad, you kind of think of that sticky, sweet.
No, it's not like a lovey-dovey thing. It's just more...
Like a slower
it's-
song, like
it's
Priest
somber,
would, like Priest would do.
Or like a Requiem.
Yeah, you
kind
go.
of a thing.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's a good one. Yeah, great band.
Awesome album.
Fantastic stuff.
Is that mine?
Nope.
Okay, because I think that's one of the few I do have on vinyl.
Nope.
Very cool. All right. Speaking of, I spoke of him a second ago. This was very much a comeback album for Oz. The first album was Zach Wild, and it was strong. It was a really strong album. I remember when Miracle Man got released as a single.
Another song
Like,
about that.
About the evangelist thing,
Oh my gosh,
televangelist.
so many songs in '88.
I mean, that just shows. I mean, the damage that they did was just so pervasive.
even
So many people were pissed about it.
and
you
even
know?
Christian bands were singing about it.
Totally. They did a lot of fucking damage. They cheapened the whole. They cheapened the presentation of the gospel basically, and they made it something that was to be laughed at, not to be respected.
Something to gain from, something to get money from.
Exactly,
it
and
was
that's exactly what people were always suspicious about. So.
And it was never, and it's not was not supposed to be about that ever, never. That was the
No.
exact opposite of what Christ taught.
But it
about
sure seems to happen a lot, even today.
Yep,
It's still
it does.
going on. Anyway, not saying that I'm somehow above it all, but it's just anyway. Ozzy, Miracle Man was an amazing cut. I mean, Zach Wild came out and was like, "Who the hell is this?"
And he was like a kid, right? At the
Oh,
time.
yeah,
Was
he was
like
still young.
17 or 18 or 19, something like that.
If anything, I mean, either that or just very early 20s.
Yeah, he was very young. I remember.
But he kicked ass, and it was like, wow, Ozzy's back with a new kick-ass guitar player. And it's not that he was Randy Rhoads, but he obviously loved Randy Rhoads, and he
Respected the
he
road
respected
stuff
him.
and didn't
Yep.
change it. Yeah.
No. And the whole album is just really good. I love pretty much everything on here. Miracle Man's a great one. Fire in the Sky is an awesome one. Bloodbath in Paradise was actually a track about the Manson family.
And Zach Wild stayed with him for, I mean, he's pretty much
Still
on and
with
off.
him now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back in the band again.
Yeah, he's been on and off with him, but yeah, he's stuck with him for a long time.
Great album.
Did Bob Daisley have anything to do with this album at all? I can't remember now.
Was he the bass player? Or was because I think Geezer joined afterwards for the tour. I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but it's funny because Daisley had such a weird relationship with Ozzy.
He was in and out with him, and he wrote so much of the music.
He wrote a lot of the music on the
Yeah,
first
Bob
two albums.
Daisley's got writing credits on here.
I thought so. Bob Daisley had a ton of writing credits. A lot of the lyrics too. He wrote a lot of the lyrics.
Yeah, yep.
And then the drummer on this one, if I'm not mistaken,
Randy
was
Castillo.
Randy Castillo from Albuquerque. He, of course, has since passed away.
Yeah, Native American guy too. I just watched a documentary about Native Americans' influence in rock and music, and there's a whole section on him.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
There's
It's called Rumble, the Indians and rock and roll, something like that. But it's called Rumble. And Link Ray was one of the the.
There's a store.
There's no bass player pictured, so whoever played on it.
I would have swore it was Bob.
Oh, Bob Daisley did play on it.
I thought it was Bob
They just
Daisley.
don't have him listed as a member.
Because he didn't do the tour. And that's,
Right, because Geezer.
He also played on the first two Ozzy albums and wasn't,
Yep.
He was pictured on the UK version of the first album.
And not at all on the second one.
Not on the second one, and not on the US version either.
The rhythm section that played on Diary of a Madman that's pictured didn't play on the album.
Correct.
It was the same lineup as Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, because the US version of the first album had that same, touring version and had a live shot of him.
Yeah.
Whereas the UK version had a picture of the band standing there with Bob Daisley and Lee
And the Cure's and Ozzy's shirt's kind of unbuttoned and he looks like an alcoholic.
Man, we can definitely ramble.
Yeah, we can.
Riot, Thundersteel, big change in sound for Riot, I'd say.
Big album for them too.
Huge album for them. I'd say it was a huge, influential album for a lot of what became a different style of power metal. Because when I grew up, power metal was actually when I was young and into the '80s, early '80s stuff. Power metal was Metallica.
Yeah, they were calling Metallica power metal back then. That's shifted big time.
And Metal Church was like the power metal band. And now that's like, oh, that's just metal. This is power metal. And, okay, that's this right here.
And it's still going on today.
That's what this has become. This was huge influence.
Because
on
nothing
that
is at least as heavy as Slayer is metal.
Right. If it's not as heavy as Slayer, then it's just hard rock. That should be a new style of music. Not hard rock.
Just hard rock.
It's like it's not good enough to be metal,
Yeah.
It's like some badge of honor to wear or something.
I'll listen to this if you let me piss on it first.
Yeah.
And Mark Reality's the only guy left.
Only guy left,
right?
Yep.
He was Riot, pretty much.
He was Riot. He stayed Riot, and now Riot's doesn't even have him anymore, which is why they call it Riot V or Riot 5 or whatever they call it.
Which I don't understand at all, but it's kind of what Molly Hatchet did. There
Yeah.
was nobody left in the band anymore.
Right. But I kind of like
pretty much dead.
I know a lot of
right?
people. I've argued with people about Molly Hatchet and Riot. If there's no original members left, then why are they doing it?
I mean, there was a transition. Bobby Ingram came in, and then it became his thing after everyone was gone.
Right. Same thing here. You know what I mean? And the same thing with the band that's left, Riot V. But they're keeping the music alive.
Yeah.
They're keeping the sound alive. They changed it, exactly. Same thing with Thin Lizzy. People like it doesn't have Phil Lynott. Well, now they changed their name.
But they are doing a 40th anniversary of Black Rose tour in Europe, I think.
Under the name Thin Lizzy.
Under Thin Lizzy.
But they don't record new music under the name Thin Lizzy. They
anymore.
record it under the name.
Well, they never did.
No.
They just did live stuff.
Right. Never did.
was
Except for
always-
live albums.
Right. It was always tribute to Phil.
Right.
It always was.
But they have recorded 3 albums since then, but under the different name, Black Star Riders,
Yeah.
exactly. And then the same thing with Riot V. I just think they're keeping the music alive, they're keeping the legacy alive, and I think that's awesome.
Yep. Right.
So,
I mean, what a change in sound for them. I mean, they were like no nonsense New York City hard rock.
They were early '80s, late '70s, early '80s metal. I mean, they were like one of the bands that were part of the new wave of British heavy movement, but weren't.
Right. And I mean, they would fit with bands like Y&T. Or,
right.
Just those late '70s, early '80s bands right before thrash hit that were the hardest stuff out there.
Yeah. Early Def Leppard and stuff like that. But anyhow, great cover. No longer do we see Johnny or the Mighty Tior on the cover.
Yeah, who's that guy?
Right?
Looks
looks a little like
Silver Surfer
it
joined the military.
It looks like a little like Silver Surfer there and his girlfriend. But yeah, I love this record. It's definitely worthy of being in my top 10. And
yeah, it's good stuff for sure. All right, so here's where, yeah, I start to diverge big time here.
Me
for the
too.
most part. Okay,
I remember these albums very well.
I wouldn't say. Okay, first off, 2 albums in the same year. Soundgarden's. It's hard to say it was their debut because Soundgarden had a 7-inch, then they had an EP, and then they had another EP, and those 2 EPs became one thing, basically called the Screaming Life Fop album. And that one came out in '88. This is definitely the beginnings of the whole grunge thing that was happening in Seattle. Soundgarden was always more guitar-oriented, though, more so than a lot of the other bands were, other than like Alice in Chains or whoever. And then they went from this to this, which is to me was a hell of a lot more accessible. I didn't get into this one until after '89 when Louder Than Love came out. Then I started going backwards. But Ultra Mega OK is a great album. Not really a bad song on here at all. Very cool stuff. Screamin' Life, I wouldn't say I'm super into it, but I just realized it came out the same year, so we included it. But
Yeah.
Ultra Mega OK was definitely in my top 10, and I still love it. There's some great material on here. No, I think they had a video for Flower, which is the opening cut. But there's nothing on here that I don't like.
See, my history with that album is I was in college at the time, and I was an artist in college. Me and my roommate were both artists, and so we always had something on the turntable between the two of us. And my roommate bought, I think it was this one.
Probably.
I just remember the cover.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And played it quite a bit. And what I remember of it, I really haven't heard it since then, was that it was kind of almost a '70s throwback to me.
Totally. It's very retro.
I remember us talking. It sounds like Black Sabbath in a meat grinder with Led Zeppelin.
And Chris Cornell back then, it was all he was singing up in that high register all the time.
He wasn't quite doing the Jarl thing.
No,
yet.
not yet.
So,
but with Ultra Mega OK, I think they really hit a stride that they continued to develop, and really, I mean, Soundgarden became huge. But this was the beginnings, and this was what I was really into. After Louder Than Love, I lost track of them for several years, and then they got big, and
I just never picked up on them at all. So, my next album is one that's one of my favorite bands. Actually, I didn't even think about it. I'm wearing the dang shirt.
that's right.
This
was a good one.
Yeah,
this was a great album. I remember it.
Okay, so they put out their first 3 albums. All those 3 albums were so. I keep saying raw, but they were. They were, especially like the first 2 albums. They were literally recorded live.
I mean,
and they sounded like it.
They were the godfathers of thrash. Really.
Yes, they
were
were
the thrashiest band in the new wave of British heavy metal.
Definitely. I mean, up there probably with Venom, who also had the speed.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But Venom had a little more of a punk.
I forget about Venom.
Yeah, but anyhow, this album was a return to form after the Atlantic Years.
Yep.
I mean,
and this is the first album Joe Hasselvander on drums, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Joe has no bladder.
Joe has no bladder.
And he's no longer. Actually, he's out of the band now. They're still touring a lot. His health has deteriorated to the point where he can no longer tour at all. I guess.
Yeah, I think he's still playing local type stuff, but not. He can't tour with Venom.
Do you know what's wrong with him?
I think he had a heart attack, maybe a couple of heart attacks.
Oh. He was pretty big in the later years of
Bob, I was talking to Bobby, and he said he definitely had a heart attack or 2, and that kind of slowed him down. So
Bobby Liebig from Pentagram, in case you're wondering who Bobby is, yeah. But anyhow, this was like return to form. Speedy, almost thrash, but not really. It's you gotta screw loose. Oh, the vocals are just. Nobody sounds like John. I don't care. Nobody.
No, John's funny as hell, man.
And John Gallagher and Dan Beehler kind of have a similar vibe, but you wouldn't mix them up.
But John Gallagher's he's funny too,
yes.
And he's almost more operatic in his approach to singing.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing for sure.
And there's not a bad song on this one. Every song I love it.
Behold the behemoth.
And Into the Jaws of Death. That they should just play that song at every show ever.
Yeah.
And I just bought their new live album that just came out this year, and it's not on there. I'm like, oh, come on, how can you not have Into the Jaws of Death on there? Yeah, but I mean, give me a break, Stick It, Die for Allah.
Great album.
Yeah,
great album.
Just, you gotta screw loose, of course. It's Hard as Nails. This was just Ravens telling Atlantic Records to piss off. You guys wrecked us.
Yep. Yep.
We're gonna come back with a vengeance.
And they did.
And the sad thing is nobody knew it. Nobody cared. It was.
I knew it.
I knew it because I was a big fan, and I
Yep.
didn't. And I just, even with like Priest, everybody hated Turbo, and I was like, Priest suck now, And I'm like, yeah, but it's still Priest, and I just keep hoping. Okay.
Oh yeah,
next
and
will
man,
be better.
and the Turbo
Next will be
tour.
better.
The Turbo tour was amazing.
Yep.
When they opened up with Out in the Cold, that was one of my totally taken by surprise moments. One of the greatest moments in metal concert going. Is like, this is a killer opening song. Oh my god, it's so fucking cool.
And it was better. It sounded better live.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it didn't have
Yeah.
the same processed sound.
Right. But it set the mood, and it's just not something you would think of as an opening track. But it was amazing.
And,
I forget about the rest of the album in favor of that one song.
Yeah. But yeah, there's the Joe Hasselvander. It's just if you like the old Raven and you didn't ever check this one out, do yourself a favor and check
Really
it out. They did do the Ultimate Revenge 2, and a couple songs from here were on that. Some of the CD
And that was
reissues
with
had
Joe?
those. That was with Joe.
Okay.
Yep, Joe Hasselvander.
Whatever happened to Rob Hunter?
He's a producer. He's still around. He's still working producing.
Not playing with anybody, though.
No, he actually contacted me on Facebook. It was kind of weird about my webpage, which was kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Awesome.
You know who contacted me recently? Real recently on Facebook was dang it, I forgot his name all of a sudden.
Guitar player
Dio keyboard player, Claude Chanel, Black Sabbath keyboard player. Yeah, he did. I put a picture.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Claude Chanel.
Jeff Nichols is the original one that died, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I was thinking because they looked kind of similar.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
And I had put a picture of Dio up in one of my 8x10s that I collect, the black and whites, and he tagged himself in the photo and got a message from him. Is it okay if I tag yourself in my photo? I'm like,
Oh, that's cool.
And then somebody commented on my photo about the picture had Dio spray painted on the back of the wall, really poorly, and someone had made a comment and was like, that's a really bad take on the Dio logo, and Claude came in and gave the story behind the whole spray painted thing, and
Kidding.
it was Dio literally walked into the thing and grabbed their can of spray paint and sprayed Dio on the wall, and then they decided to take pictures in front of it.
Awesome.
Talk about rabbit trails, man.
Oh, that's all right. Hey, these are interesting ones, though. At least these are. They're relevant.
Sort of.
Sort of.
This could be like a 6-part video.
Okay, so here we are. I mean, I'm diverging even more, but this was a huge album for me and the guys in DT Seizure. It was.
You can't show that record.
Well, it's tits, but they're covered in plaster, so it's okay. It'll be okay. It's just tits. Jane's Addiction. Nothing shocking. Let them see the tits. Jane's Addiction, LA band, Perry Farrell frontman. They were bizarro when they first came out, but they made a big impact. They definitely made an impact on us. I mean, we thought the songwriting was great. They were kind of mental. And the funny thing this album to us was huge. We loved it. We used to sit around and listen to this all the time. There's some great stuff on here. Then Ritual de lo Habitual came out, and then they kind of faded out. It seemed this was kind of the beginnings of the alternative getting bigger and what happened in the 90s, even with grunge and all that stuff. But these guys were from LA, and they just were so different from everything else that was going on at the time that it was hard not to really pay attention and really like them. So I was going somewhere. You didn't? No. Well, like I said, I mean, I have life experience with this one with the guys in the band, and we were so into it because we were looking for stuff that was going to lead us in different directions, and this definitely was part of it, even though we didn't get to go in those directions. After all, I don't remember what I was saying. Other than this is just more evidence of the stuff I was getting into that was off the beaten track of just the straight metal stuff. I think that's all I wanted to say. But if you never heard it, there's some kick-ass songwriting on this album, and it's just a great thing.
I should probably give it a listen. I really should.
It's really good.
I haven't heard it since 1988, and I just remember hearing it and going, eh.
To me, I thought this one. To me, these guys would have been legendary if Perry Farrell had died or something. But instead, they just kind of faded away. And now he went on to do other stuff like Porno for Pyros and some solo stuff. And he's the guy who put together the whole Lollapalooza thing. So he went on to do some stuff. But it seemed like he was very unstable, and if he had died, he would have been like in the 27 Club and one of those legends. But
right.
I'm not saying I wish he had died, but it seemed like that's where he was going. And they would have probably been remembered more if something rotten like that had happened.
And my next album is nowhere near that sound.
Nope.
But here is a...
but we are in their land, we're in their town.
yeah, this is Arizona band.
Flotsam and
Jetsam. Some people call them a thrash metal band. I never really thought so. I always just thought they were more of a heavy metal band, straightforward metal band. Maybe pushing towards speed metal at times. But
was this second album?
this is their second album.
Okay.
This did not have Jason on it. Jason was
Right.
out of the band at this point. Although
Cool
some
cover
of, this,
Saturday Night Sorry for Fighting.
some of the songs on here were, I think he had writing credits on a couple songs on here.
Okay.
I Live You Die was actually a song that had been written by him. They had written as one of their demos. And talked earlier about the second album still having some of those from the bucket. That's one of those things.
Same
there.
thing with Ride the Lightning.
But
Mustaine
this
has
was
some credits.
Yep, this is their big label debut on Elektra
Elektra.
Records, which
Metallica's label.
Metallica's label. They had recently acquired Jason Newsted, and it's long been a rumor, or I've heard I've read it in magazine articles saying that Elektra basically signed him to squish him, to crush him, to keep him from being any sort of threat to Metallica, which is bizarre. I don't get that. Why would you put out a product?
Another reason why the music of business sucks.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, it was a rumor. Who knows if that's true or not?
But it's believable.
Yeah,
I mean, record companies did shit like that all the time.
Yeah, they would. I mean, it's not that the album's bad.
Sign a band and shelve them either for tax reasons or
for
political reasons.
Or you put an album out like they did with Raven. They put an album out and then they put nothing behind it.
No. It
And,
sucks.
Yeah.
Totally sucks.
So that's kind of what happened with this band. They put nothing behind this band.
No.
Did nothing for them. Didn't advertise it. Didn't push it like they did for other bands. But regardless, great album.
Have you seen the newest one? The cover art for the newest
Yes.
album? Flotzilla is back.
Yep.
I was like, hey, that guy.
Yep. I want that. I pre-ordered it from Amazon and it's literally still sitting waiting to ship.
What's it called?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I just saw a post about it the other day.
I don't have it, so I'm waiting for it.
But I asked, and I don't know I think it was in some metal group I'm a part of. I'm like, hey, is that Flotzilla? I'm like, yeah. Like, that's cool. I like it when they bring stuff like that back that you haven't seen.
Yeah, this is the EP that came out. This was a live EP, 3 songs on the back end. This is actually, if I'm not mistaken, this was on Roadrunner, Road Racer. So
Lots of metal on those labels.
yep. So you get the Elton John song, which frankly I like the song, but I think
It was cool.
it's probably the worst song on the album actually.
It's not typically what they sounded.
It doesn't quite fit, but a lot of the bigger labels were forcing these bands like Flotsam and Heathen.
And Raven did Gimme Good Love.
Yeah, they were kind of
Spencer
forcing
Davis
them to
yeah.
do those covers as a way to put out a single, and that's what it was with this one too. They here's the single, and it's like now if people like it and they buy it, it's like if they like that song, they're not gonna like the rest of the album if that's what they're into.
Probably not.
But
No.
whatever.
That's why the music of business of music is just
We are on
it
number.
just rapes the art of music. In my
I think you were on your number. You were on your number 4.
Okay. Yes. Yes. And I actually heard this when it came out. I can't say I liked it immediately, but it grew on me and I grew to love it. St. Vitus, Mournful Cries. This was technically the third release with Wino. They had Born Too Late in '86, and then '87 they had the Thirsty and Miserable EP. And then this. So this is the first Vitus I heard. I'd never heard the earlier stuff. Although I did know of St. Vitus because I remember seeing Hallow's Victim years before. Like, we're talking, when did that come out? '85, I think. And I might have seen it come through a record store, but I had no clue. I was like, those guys look like Sabbath. But I was a little slow on the uptake, so I didn't grab it right off the bat. But heard this. Initially, I wasn't crazy about it. It grew on me, and then eventually I became a huge fan of this band. And I love their stripped down, no nonsense approach to doom metal, basically. And they were one of the few that were doing it back at this point. Trouble was around already. These guys. Pentagram was around. They weren't quite as well known.
They weren't active
at
yet,
the
or
time.
not quite as active. And then
Was Candlemass?
Candlemass was definitely around.
86?
Yeah, they were in
86,
there.
87?
Yep.
So there were very few that were carrying the Sabbath flag. It still wasn't a cool thing to do back then, to some people. But
No, like we said, in '88 it was all about either the poppy, glammy style metal or it
yeah,
was
not
speed,
throwback,
speed
dirtbag,
thrash.
doom,
There was very
downer
little,
music.
very little straightforward metal in the mainstream.
Yeah, yeah. This is definitely some stuff, and it was slow, and that's part of what appealed to me. I mean, the whole thrash and speed thing. I got weary of it personally. This was a much better fit for me because
You were playing it.
True, I was at the time. But the thing is even in DT Seizure, this is the kind of stuff I wanted to be doing, and it took me several years to finally be able to actually do it. So, yeah, St. Vitus, I love them. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I think that they're a perfect hybrid between punk and doom. On a punk, basically a punk label.
Yeah, SST, right?
Greg Ginn's SST label that Black Flag was on.
They were kind of the oddball on that label.
Yeah, kinda. But that's another label that usually if you liked one thing that was on it, you would trust it and buy it. Even the Soundgarden, Ultra Mega OK was on SST initially. So
There's a doom legend in this band too.
yep, Wino
Yep.
was the singer at the time, handpicked by the original singer Scott Regers. This Wino was the guy he wanted to replace him. Wino already had the Obsessed going on, although their first album didn't come out until 1990. So this kind of put the brakes on the Obsessed a little bit while Scott did this with him, and he still tours with them, or he was touring with them up until a few years ago, and I think Scott Regers is back with them now. So they've kind of gone back and forth between the two guys, except for one album they did.
And Wino was sang on a Place of Skulls album too, right?
He did.
Yep.
Half of it.
All right, so we're on number 3.
I think so.
Yep. This is an unusual one because this
I
is
don't know,
totally
this is
outside of the There's not alternative. This is not thrash. This is not glam. This is Dirty Looks. This was a band I got into in college the year before. I had bought their well, actually a friend of mine had given me the cassette tape of their independent release.
It looks like it would be like New York Dolls or something.
And it's very much inspired by that sort of sound.
Okay.
But a lot of people call them an AC/DC clone. And they do have a huge AC/DC vibe, that kind of simplistic vibe. And there's a song on here called Oh Ruby that he really, really sounds like Bon Scott on.
I don't know any of these guys.
This album, I love this
Where are
album.
they
from? This is when they're from, the singer is originally from Europe. I can't remember which.
Okay, so not an American
But the band is American.
band. Oh, okay.
So he came to America, and by the time this album came out, this was like their 4th album, their first for the major label.
Okay.
Turn of the Screw was their 2nd major label album, and that was the same band you have here. But these guys, they were all Americans. They're originally out of Pennsylvania.
And they don't look like a glam band. They look like a thrash band. And
Yeah.
So it's like, what exactly are they?
So they were originally from Pennsylvania. That's where they were signed, and then they moved to Rochester, and they became like a huge local scene band in Rochester, New York, playing Penny
So
Arcade
they were
and
kind
those
of
kind
local
places.
for you then.
Yeah, they were a
Okay.
local band, and then they got big, and they ended up signing with Atlantic Records, and this is their first release. Did really well for them. Then Inner Turmoil in the band, their 2nd album, Turn of the Screw, they kind of lost their. They weren't sure what they wanted to do sound-wise. So you had people pushing and pulling for the way they wanted to sound. But the thing is, it's Henrik's band, and Henrik was this guy right here, who has since passed away. I actually ended up becoming a bit of a friend with him before he died. Talking to him on the phone quite a bit about faith,
How did
of
he
all
die?
things. He had liver disease. Yeah, he died of liver disease. So, but anyhow, great stuff. I turned. You guys know Metal Theologian if you watch my channel at all, and he's pretty much not into mainstream music or mainstream label stuff. And he bought this, and I told him just check it out, you'll like it. And he ended up he liked it. It's just
I've heard of him, but I've never
straightforward,
heard him.
sleazy hard rock. A bit of an AC/DC vibe, but also a bit of an Aerosmith vibe, almost like Cinderella, but without the glamier portions of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
One of my all-time favorite records. I can't even tell you how many times I played this record. I still play it a ton.
That's cool.
Yep. That's actually Henrik on the cover. Terrible album cover, by the way.
It doesn't really fit. I think the pink kind of throws you off. That's what makes me think of like New York Dolls or Johnny Thunders.
And it does have kind of a little bit of a punky vibe, that or garage rock.
But the
vibe.
way that they look, I mean, if you just saw the picture, they would seem like they were a much heavier band.
And I just call it, a lot of people call it sleaze rock or sleaze metal or whatever. I don't care. Call it what you want to. They're just a good heavy rock band, and I huge hooks. Hendrick has a very unique voice does have some similarities to Bon Scott at times. A little more raspy than Bon Scott ever was, but
I think it's impossible not to compare stuff to other stuff. It's just how we learn.
Really sad that he passed.
That does suck.
Yeah, it was just
Any
a few years
rest
ago.
of the guys?
Yeah, Dirty Looks is no more.
No.
Actually, the guitar player, Paul Idell. Yeah, Paul Idell went on to play with Dangerous Toys vocalist in a band called. I can't remember the name of the band. It's called. Anyhow, whatever.
Dirty Toys.
Should have been, huh? Actually, that band was from Texas. And
Shit.
it's kind of a more of a sleazy AC/DC-ish kind of rock band that he was in with the singer from Dangerous Toys.
But you can't remember the name.
It's not coming to me at the moment, no.
Okay.
That's fun. Broken Teeth.
There you go. Okay. This was a very big album for me personally. This was the...
You're number 3. Yep.
3 or... Yes, it's my number 3. It was a big one. I'm not... Whatever. The debut from Glenn Danzig's solo act called Danzig. Basically, kind of morphed from the ashes of... I'm never sure how to say it. Samhain or Samhain, how you say it in the Gaelic. I don't know. One of those things. Whereas they were more punky, or gothic punk kind of stuff. Danzig was much more straightened out. Almost an AC/DC thing going on, but a slower paced one. It's kind of doom. Kind of doom.
Kind of gothic a little bit.
Yep. And Glenn just has that really gravelly, warbly kind of voice that he does that was great in the Misfits as well, and Glenn's a great songwriter. Kind of a dink of a person, but and you know, the guys in the band, they were all buffed out, lifting weights, and dark black hair, except for the drummer Chuck Biscuits, who used to play with Black Flag. So they were kind of coming out of the punk scene, but they were kind of playing metal that was kind of rock, that kind of wasn't. It just sounded so different at the time. Maybe it would have fit well alongside stuff like the Cult, but it wasn't the Cult. It just was very different, very horror oriented, and that kind of thing. So and Mother was a huge hit. That was the thing that kind of propelled his whole career at that point, and he's still going with different measures of success, I guess. This first band did 4 albums. They never really were able to quite recapture what they had on those early albums, although he does have the old guitar player from Prong in there now, and he's doing some cool stuff. He went into industrial metal for a time, like a lot of other people did, and his fans weren't really into it, but these early albums, good stuff. And the second one after this one, there's a lot of blues kind of injected into it too.
So I'm asking a question I've always wondered about this. The song Mother, was that song inspired by or lifted from the Animals?
I don't know.
No, I can't think of the name of the dang Animals song. Huge song for the Animals. What was their biggest hits?
House of the Rising Sun.
That's it.
Well, I mean, that wasn't their song. That's a traditional.
Was it House of the Rising Sun? But there's a song in there.
It's My Life.
Yeah, it's,
why can't I think of any Animal songs? Jeez, this is embarrassing.
Right? Oh well. Anyhow, there's a line.
There's stuff on.
There's a line in one of their songs that basically says, "Mother, tell your children not to go my way," and I was like,
"Oh yeah, Mother, tell your children not to do the things." I never even noticed that, but that's. There's a lot of things like that. There's stuff that is blatantly lifted. Like they do the song "The Hunter," which is basically a free song, or it may even be an older blues standard. But he does it without giving any credit to anybody. I don't know. I don't know if he ever got sued for it or not.
Yeah, I don't think. I'm not saying he stole the song. The song is not.
I wouldn't put it past him because there's a lot of stuff on here that you're like, hey, that's from.
Yeah.
Hey. So which is not uncommon to do. Led Zeppelin did it.
Big time.
Big time. And they got sued for it too. But for me, I loved this album. Loved it. And I loved the second one too.
All right. This is my number 2. love this record for many reasons.
Oh, wow.
This is the first album from Vengeance Rising, or just Vengeance in this
Previously
case.
known as Vengeance.
Yep. They had a clash with the band from Switzerland, Sweden, something like that. They were also called Vengeance, that were totally different style. This Vengeance comes out of LA and is really, really raw thrash metal.
But really unique.
Very unique.
Not typical thrash at all.
What I liked about this, and I kind of feel the same way about the first Metallica record and the first Exodus record, is in that it's got that youthful energy. It's got a raw energy that you just rarely hear captured on vinyl. It's sloppy recorded, but it's heavy.
But it works that way.
Yeah, it just sounds so good. I mean, there's even a mistake on this record they never took out. So
And sometimes those are the best things.
yeah, so I mean, it's just, I love this album. There's a
I'm
couple
smelling the plastic. It smells funny.
There's a couple of short songs on here. His God is a really, really short song. I sang most of these songs. I remember.
With Once Dead.
Yeah, I remember. See, here's the funny thing: is when I bought this album, I walked into I was driving a truck for. I was in college, but I had a summer job, and I was driving a truck for some interior design company.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove by the store, and it said Christian records and books. I was like, oh, cool! I'm gonna go and check that out. And they had this like demo section where you could listen to the cassette tapes.
Oh yeah.
And I said, oh, that looks cool. So I grabbed that and I stuck it in at the tech, and I'm like, oh, I'm buying this. This is awesome. and I was listening to it in the truck, and I was just loving this band. And I said, if I ever in a band, I'm going to be in a band just like this. I remember saying that. And I ended up being in this band in 2004 and doing the reunion show with them and singing a lot of these songs.
And Ultimatum actually covered Burn.
Ultimatum covered Burn.
I heard your version of Burn first. I'd never heard this.
Well, the funny thing is, a lot of people thought Burn was our song.
Well, that's how well you did it.
Nobody knew. Not a people hadn't heard it. So, and I think that's a lot of the best cover songs are those songs that are chosen by bands that are lesser known to most people, and then you make it your own.
Oh yeah.
The same thing with Priest. I mean, a lot of bands did that.
Yep.
Because when you take popular songs and redo them, it's like, no. You already know that song, and you've heard it a million times, and that version doesn't sound like the one I know.
And it's amazing to find out some of these songs that you've known for years. It's like, that was a cover.
Yeah.
Like the most recent one for me was Gonna Get Close to You, the Queensryche tune.
Right.
No, it was a cover that was 2 years earlier than their recording. I'm like, wow, by this female kind of 80s arty artist. And it's like, wow. And I love the original too. It's very cool. But I never realized it was a cover.
Yeah, great album. Great, very raw, like I said. Glenn Rogers, who we've talked about multiple times, wrote many of these songs, including the song "Burn." That was his song.
But he didn't play on this.
But he did not play on this. No, he was in Deliverance. He was Vengeance first. Vengeance kind of fell apart. Pastor Bob got with some of the guys, and they kind of put them back together. They used some of Glenn's songs, and I'll never forget. Larry Farkas is such a character. I love Larry, and we're talking about when they heard Roger first singing. He's like, "Oh man, that guy! He was so terrible and gnarly. We got to get him."
That's a hilarious thing to say.
That's so hilarious.
We were in Denny's.
I'll never forget it. We were in Denny's one time, and the waitress walks by. She's got this huge stack of nachos, and they're just. And he's like, "Oh, look at those nachos! Those are disgusting!" And then right at the end, the waitress comes up and says, "Can I take your order?" "Yeah, I'll have the nachos."
I remember that.
It's classic Larry. And the guy makes the best guitar faces of any guitar player ever.
And he's an amazing player.
He is an amazing player.
I saw him playing. This was 2 nights before Up From the Ashes 3, and we went to see. Members of Trog Dawn went to go see Larry playing in a cover band, and Doug and Gina Theme were there, and we were hanging out, and Larry we're just listening to him play cover songs, but like, man, I think they played Heaven and Hell by Sabbath, and the solo was so friggin' amazing. And it's just kind of cool to listen to him in a different context to see.
He should have been a very well-known guitar player. He's just that good.
He's a great player.
I mean, he played in Circle of Silence. He played in Die Happy. He's played in a lot of bands.
And Die Happy was I never was into Vengeance. I didn't know about them. I got into them because I liked Die Happy, and then I was told, oh, that's basically Vengeance.
And I was
a
a
different
huge
singer.
fan. I mean, a huge fan of this band. I love this band. So when they gave me the call up, actually, how it happened was that we were playing Burn. We played here. We played in California at a show, Metal Mardi Gras, and Larry Farkas and Glenn Mancaruso were actually drummer and guitar player were actually there in California and saw us play the song.
Oh, cool.
So after the show, the two of them came back and they said, "Hey man, if we ever do a Vengeance Rising reunion, you got to come sing for us." And then a year later, we did the Vengeance Rising reunion and got with Bill Baffert from Rocks.
Yep.
And Bill, remember that guy who sang, and they recommended. He's like, "Yeah, call him up." So that's how I ended up singing for him, is because of that.
And I want to say the first time I saw you play. Oh no, it was an Ultimatum and a Once Dead show.
Yep.
Yeah, so I saw you for the first time singing for Ultimatum, and then you sang for Once Dead.
Yep.
Two sets in a night.
Yeah. And then the funny thing was,
And
when
you were sick.
I was very sick. I went to the very first practice for that reunion show, and I brought all my stuff with me, and I had him sign it all.
Had to do Fanboy for
Yep.
15 minutes. So that was your number one?
2.
That was number one from your personal list.
Right. Number 1 is both.
And this, I was kind of surprised, but for some reason I felt this needed to be at the top of my list. Not that it's not worthy, it's just some of the other stuff you'd think, knowing me, I would have chosen over it. But Operation Mindcrime was a huge album for them. It was another huge album for DT Seizure. This is another one where Brian, the drummer, came home. The day it came out, he had the cassette. We all sat down, popped it in the box, and just totally devoured it. Man, we were totally into this album. Loved it, loved it, loved it.
And for me, I found that a total disappointment. I was totally bummed out when that album came out, and I heard it the first time. I'm like,
Yeah.
where'd the metal go?
I would think you would have felt that way more with Rage for Order.
And I loved Rage for Order.
I did too, but it was such a kind of a weird album.
It was weird, but it still had the edge to it. This one seemed like it was more story over music.
It was definitely a concept album in an era when that was kind of unheard of, at least in bigger circles. A lot of Pink Floyd influence coming through on this. Definitely, it's like they were listening to The Wall a lot, and they used kind of that format, sort of. I wouldn't say the story is as fleshed out as The Wall was, but it's definitely in that direction, and it's definitely something that at the time metal bands weren't really doing too much of, so I think that kind of set it apart. But I mean, there's some great stuff on here. I hear what you're saying, and I know a lot of people felt that way.
I do like
this
it
is
now.
the last great.
I do like it now. It's just, I just remember when it came out, I was personally disappointed because I loved Queensryche so much that I had it painted on the back of my denim jacket.
Right.
I had the Warning painted with the EP logo on the top.
The Warning was a totally different album for sure.
And then this came out, and I was like,
even between the EP and the Warning, it was a huge style shift.
But I think the other thing was I was just so into the thrash that just didn't appeal to me at the time. So
yeah.
And speaking of thrash, our number 1.
Yeah, our number 1. I guess we can just do it. Megadeth. So far, so good. So what? This was the only one we agreed on in the top 10.
Yep.
So.
And why not? It's a good album. It's, again, Dave was totally...
Dave was doing everything.
He was totally wasted. I call it drug-addled, but
Completely.
for some reason, they just pulled together on this one.
I mean, this was the last one where songs from the early Megadeth batch still showed up.
The bucket we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
You got Hook and Mouth in here.
Hook and Mouth started out as an instrumental.
Yep.
But Into the Lungs of Hell and Set the World Afire originally was a song called Burnt Offerings. And I have some old bootlegs that have the original version of it. And I remember because I was there when Megadeth was first forming, and so I always, every time an album come out, I'm looking for those old songs to keep popping up, and a bunch of them popped up on Peace Sells under different titles and stuff like that. But this is the last one where basically Set the World Afire and Hook and Mouth were taken from that old batch.
Yep.
And then that was it.
Now, of course, the hit from this album was Anarchy in the UK.
Yep.
I liked that cover.
I did too.
I think they did a good job with that cover. It just fit them.
I mean, it was another new band, another new drummer and new guitar player, which basically was a theme throughout Megadeth up until now, really.
Even still.
Yeah, I mean, the two Daves were the mainstays, and the second guitar and the drummers were rotating. Chuck Beeler, Dan Beeler's brother, I believe.
I think so. I think you're right.
Drummer on here, and Jeff Young, he was like a guitar prodigy out of GIT or something, and neither of them really fit in the band, but the album, it's a great album. Some great songs on
I
here.
know this Rabbit Trail. Remember when you and I bought the reissue that they put out on CD of this, and we listened to it together? The
Oh
first
my
time?
God!
We were just like,
Where those horns come from? There's all this horn section.
There's no horns in the original. Where these horns come from? So we're ripping out the old one and we're trying to play it, and like, nah, there's no horns.
Nothing in there.
They ruined it.
I like having them both. I prefer the original just because the second one, it's like, I don't know, it's weird.
It's corny, yeah.
But the sound quality definitely went up, like especially on "Killing Is My Business."
Oh yeah.
If you listen to the combat version of that, and then the remaster of the first one, wow, it's like night and day.
Yep. But I just don't like the remix. I probably just because I like this one so much.
Sure.
And that intro into Lungs of Hell is so heavy.
Yep.
And adding the horns to it just makes it.
It was weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked what he was trying to do. There's a melodic quality in there he's trying to bring out, but it wasn't necessary.
I mean, they say it's in here, but I don't hear it.
I don't either. Another massive song in here is "In My Darkest Hour." That's like a signature song for Dave.
Your copy's different than mine because yours says explicit lyrics, parental advisory.
Oh. What if this is a reissue?
Nah, it's probably the same time. That's just a sticker.
Yeah.
But
And this was in that heyday of the PMRC.
PMRC.
Yeah.
So. Anyhow,
that's it.
Number one, 1988. That was a long video, so
It was.
I definitely appreciate y'all watching. So we'll just cut it here and see you all as you leave comments. Bye.